Today I want to talk about vintage Nikon 35mm lenses. So let's get started. Now, when I'm talking about vintage lenses, I think the glory days, the best days for Nikon for their manual focus lenses were the lenses that were called the AIS. Originally, there was the AI lenses, and they were starting to get updated around 1981 to become AIS. Now, after that, the lenses became autofocus. Those were great too, but I really think the heyday of Nikon lenses were these AIS lenses. Magnificent build quality, all the great lengths, great lenses. Now, at that time, so we're talking, 77, 78, 1980, times like that. Cameras were the FM and the F2. Those are the kind of the pro bodies. Now, let me give you a bit of the backstory. I have a newspaper background. I've basically had three careers. I was a news photographer. I worked at 5 different papers. Then I became a sports photographer. I shot for the NFL and Major League Baseball. Then I left all that and went to Sony and was the manager for the digital imaging group, one of the national managers for Sony North America. So I've kind of had 3 careers. In my newspaper days, there was nothing greater than having maybe an F3 or an FM and then the FM2. These were great cameras, and it's hard to look back and kind of understand just how important these cameras and lenses were. And it was the envy of every news photographer. So for 35mm, I think the great lens, the lens that we all wanted, was the 35-1.4. Now, Nikon made other 35mm lenses. They made a 35-2.8. That was an AIS lens, so this is sort of like 1981. It was around for maybe 8 or 9 years. The 35-2.8, that would be, I would call it price point because it would definitely be less expensive, but at that time, Nikon only made top quality gear. So even though a lens was slower, therefore less expensive, they didn't cut back on the quality. So the mechanics of the lens were still top notch, still professional. Everything about the lens was still top notch. It was just slower. So there was the 35-2.8. And I think if I was buying a lens today, well, these lenses are all old. These are 30, 40 years old lenses. And you're going to buy them off eBay. I don't think I'd buy the 2.8. I just don't think there's any reason to, because the other lenses are not that much more expensive. They were originally, like 35-1.4. It was an expensive lens when it was available new, but not on eBay. You could build the greatest camera system that you could imagine now with all these old lenses because the prices have come down so much. So they did make a 35-2.8. They did make an AIS 35f2. Again, this is like 1981. That one was available from 81 to 2005. So almost 25 years with that one optical design. It was replaced by an autofocus lens. So there was the 35-2.8, there was the 35f2, but the one that we all dreamt about was the 35-1.4. I mean, that was such a great lens. Now, I didn't shoot a lot of wide angle at the time. You tended to use like the 105, or maybe you used a 50, or I remember shooting headshots with a 300. So we weren't really doing a lot with the wide angle, but the goal, the dream lens was that 35-1.4. So that's what I've got now, because again, you're buying these used on the used market. The difference in price between a 35-2.8 and a 35-2, probably less than $100 difference. And then to go to the 1.4, probably less than $100 difference on eBay. So this is the time when you can really make that dream system that you want. And that 35-1.4 is part of it. Now, I use a lens hood on my lens. It's called the HN3. That's the proper one for the 35mm lens. Now, if you're buying the lens off eBay, buy one with the hood. You're not really paying any more for the hood that way, but if you have to buy the hood later separately, they really kind of overprice on the hoods. So it's basically no charge if you can buy a lens that has the hood as part of the package. But it's going to be overpriced if you have to just buy the hood separately later on. So it's the HN3, and again, you just get it off eBay. Now the lens itself is rather large, physically large, and it's heavy. It's almost twice as heavy as the 2.8 lens, and that's kind of like around 240 grams. The 35-1.4 is over 400 grams. So it is a large lens physically, and it is a heavy lens. It does graciously use a 52 filter. So those are kind of the pluses. This is a large lens. Well, this is the optical design of the lens. Hard to really explain what's going on here, but you can see it's a very complex lens, and there's lots of glass. Again, I think that's why it's so heavy, 400 plus grams. A lot of glass in there. Now, one of the things about these lenses, especially wide open, is they're not perfect. They're not perfectly sharp. And I have tested this quite a bit. And a place that I go a lot to test things is this old shed. So I have, hauled my gear down to the old shed, put the camera on a tripod, taken some pictures. At 1.4, wide open, now, on a sunny day with ISO like FP4 film, that's what I was using, or maybe using Delta 100, something like that. At 1.4 on a sunny day, your shutter speed is probably at 8,000th of a second. If you just follow the rule of 16, you're going to be, like at 8,000th or a 4,000th of a second, which my F3 doesn't go up to. So that kind of means that these negatives are slightly overexposed. But at 1.4, I wouldn't call it super sharp. And I've had other lenses, and they weren't super sharp wide open either. There's just, now, if it was my photo, I would call it a softness. If it was your photo, I'd say it was out of focus or it's blurry. But, everyone gives themselves the benefit of the doubt. So the 1.4 wide open is a little bit soft. I've got it critically focused. There's just not amazing detail wide open. Now, when you stop the lens down to f8, which is what this next shot is, so I've gone to the old shed, I've taken it at 1.4, now I'm shooting at 1.8, and I've got some issues with the center of the frame because there was a pole and there's a shadow on my picture, but anyways, I think we'll go through this quickly. At f8, this is a nice sharp lens. And we've got lots of detail. Now, another thing people look at is the detail in the corners. Well, if you think of a triangle, the distance from the center to the film is one distance. The distance, the physical distance from the film to the edge of the frame is longer. So if you're focused at 10 feet, that distance on the edges might be 12 feet. So it's kind of weird that people focus on flat things like this and then wonder why the corners aren't sharp. I think the corners aren't sharp because it's not where you're focused. I think the corners aren't sharp because if you're focused at 10 feet, well, this is 12 feet, it's kind of out of focus. But anyways, the detail is great at f8. Can you live with it wide open? Yes. Now, if you're shooting wide open, and here's a thing, I mean, just people will be surprised about this, and people talk about bokeh and bokeh or whatever the term is you want to use. I never heard that term till, I worked for Sony. I mean, no one was talking about the bokeh or the bokeh of a lens. It wasn't part of the conversation. And people had 1.4 lenses because they worked at newspapers and they shot in dark rooms. You did not generally, I could never remember a time where you would say, I want super narrow depth of field. I want this bokeh look to my shot. No, we were trying to get it sharp. We were trying to get sharp, and trust me, the editors had no appreciation for the softness and subtleties of the bokeh of your lens. They wanted it sharp. So you had a 1.4 because you were shooting in dark rooms, but you only went to 1.4 when you were out of light. You weren't shooting at 1.4 for effect. You were shooting at 1.4 so you could take a photo in the dark. So that's the first kind of thing that has changed so much. People talk about shooting lenses wide open. Yes, we shot lenses wide open when I worked at the newspaper. Absolutely. That's because it was dark. it was just dark. But you wouldn't purposely shoot at 1.4 on a bright sunny day. You know, no one was using neutral density filters like they do now, because people want to shoot wide open. But back then, like, we were just trying to get the picture sharp. So things have kind of changed in that dimension. Now let's talk about the second scene. This is a little waterfall in Hilton Falls, a little rapid. The first print, I've burned down the corners. So there is the first print. I'm showing you these two prints because people have asked if I could show pictures side by side. So there's the first print, and then the better print where it's burned in a bit on the edges. That's the one I want to talk about. Now, the 3514S, there were two versions of it. The only thing that really changed was the serial numbers. There doesn't seem to be any other change in the lens or anything like that. But it came out in 1981 and was still available new till 2020. So almost 40 years, this one lens was on the market. I mean, that's spectacular. That's how much people loved it. Now, I'm sure the last 10 years when they were, you know, it was out, but also the autofocus lens was out. I'm sure people were buying the autofocus lens instead, but it was out on the market for almost 40 years. Now, with the waterfall shot, I have focused right on that center rock. So there's some algae growing on it. I focused on there, and my shutter speed is about half a second at an f8. So not wide open, half a second f8. I wanted that blur. I wanted to see, you know, what this lens was like using it, not just testing it. So I've got this waterfall shot. You know, it's at first when I was printing it, I thought, man, it's just not super sharp everywhere. But after the print dried and I put my glasses on, you know what? It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Nice look to the image, nice and sharp. Obviously, in the background, it's further away. It's not in focus. But the areas in the foreground, it seems to be quite nice. So for the landscape, I kind of like that lens. It seems to work out well. The other place that I went were where these roots were. And I did these wider shots first. So this kind of gives you an idea. I have focused on those roots right in the center. And again, it's f8. I think this was like 8-second exposure. It was dark in this area. So 8 seconds at f8, shooting on a Nikon F3. And focused on those roots right in the center. Pretty nice detail. I'm pretty happy with how these ones turned out. Again, I've got two prints. The only difference is I've dodged slightly in the center on the better one and burned the corners in slightly on the better one. So gives you an idea. Everything needs a little bit of love in the darkroom, but pretty happy with the detail that I'm getting here on this 3514 at f8. Now then I moved in a little bit on the roots. This like recomposed, moved the camera in, and again I'm focused on those roots in the center. And again, you know, burning in the corners and that as I try to do, but great detail. I mean, if you can put it on a tripod, f8, it's fantastic. Now, every lens is fantastic at f8. I understand that, but 3514 at f8, I'm quite happy with that. I feel that it's giving me everything that I'm going to get out of 35mm film. One thing that was interesting while I was out shooting was I kept running into this heron. So I went back the next day with my longer lens on my digital camera, got a little bit of video of this heron that was basically there every day that I was at the park. Now here's the final shot. This is Hilton Falls a few weeks ago before the snow started to hit. But 35mm, if you're standing on the little viewing platform at Hilton Falls, 35mm seems to be kind of the right lens. This is dodged a bit on the right-hand side under the rocks because it was pretty dark, and burned a bit on the left-hand side, including the rocks and the water. But Hilton Falls with that 35, and this would be at f8 again. So f8 at maybe 1 second or half a second, something like that. If you're going to take this lens out into the field, you're going to love it. It is big, it is heavy, Again, twice the weight of the 35-2.8. Physically large, but still uses that 52 filter. Fantastic lens, and truly the envy of the photographers when it was in its heyday. When the Nikon F3 came out, the Nikon FM2, wow, it just didn't get better than this 35-1.4. It was what the news photographers wanted, and I really think that Nikon was listening and coming out with products that people wanted. Now, the 35-1.4, they'd had that in the lineup since the early days. 1970 they had a 35-1.4. They had an AI version in 77, but the AIS coming out in 1981, being available till 2020, amazing. What a great lens. What a great lens in the Nikon lineup for manual focus film lenses. Doesn't get any better. Nothing was more desirable if you needed a wide angle than this AIS 35-1.4.